I said, capons, culinary capers, Big G's gonna show you what to do. I said, now capons, culinary capers, Big G's gonna show you what to do.
Hello there, I'm really proud to present the 5th recipe in my Capon's Culinary Caper series. Today we'll be making beef meatballs in tomato sauce. This is a recipe that's a perennial favourite with my family and was very popular when I had the wine bar as well. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, today we're going to make beef meatballs with tomato sauce. These are a couple of hamburger pates that I bought from a local butcher. I buy them in quantity because I've got a big family. That's the concentrated chicken stock, of course onions, garlic, fresh rosemary from the garden, thyme that I dried myself from fresh. We have a mixture of 4 light oils and olive oil. We've got a couple of large fresh tomatoes. We have a can of tomato pulp. We have an egg, of course. We have some breadcrumbs. Then we have salt, pepper, coriander seeds and cumin seeds. I think that's about all. Okay, I've added the four plain oils in, and I've added a little bit of olive oil there. I put the thyme in. I've not put the rosemary in yet because we're going to use the onions both for the sauce and the meatballs. So here's the onions. They're going to go in now. And as I said, we're going to use about half for the meatballs and half for the sauce. So the onions and the garlic are going to go in. I'm going to stir them in. They're starting to cook a little bit. Put a little bit of laurel leaf. And this is the concentrated chicken stock. I'm going to put 2 big tablespoons in. You can use chicken stock cubes or beef stock cubes, but no monosodium glutamate. Okay, that's all. Okay, well, I've been cooking them for about 25-30 minutes. And look, you can see that they're soft, they'll sort of like fall in half. Now I'm going to use about half of them for the meatballs and the other half for the sauce. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put them out in the garden to get cold for about 10 minutes and then we'll make the meatballs. I'm going to put in some salt, pepper. I'm going to make the mixture for the meatballs. Okay, I'm going to put in the breadcrumbs. As I said, half the onion. Take an egg. I'm going to whisk it in with this beautiful little whisk. And now we're going to add the meat. I do like this into little bits. And now I'm going to get my hands dirty. I wash my hands very thoroughly before I do this and very thoroughly after. You'll notice this is European meat. There's hardly any fat in it at all. If there's 2 or 3%, it'll be that. I know it's not that easy to get in America, but do not use 30% fat mincemeat because it won't make very good meatballs. And so we keep on like this, and then afterwards I'm going to mix it all up together. And if it's still too wet, then what I'm going to do is add some more breadcrumbs. You see, I make it into little morsels like this. And I said I wash my hands before and after always thoroughly. And if you want to, you could wear gloves to do this, you know, the little thin rubber ones. Okay, so we're going to get in there. And you have to do this for quite a while until really there's no more lumps of meat left. It's all really mixed in together. That's about the perfect constituency. That was the right amount of breadcrumbs. I don't need to add any more. So I'm going to let that sit for a little while I skin the tomatoes and get them cooking. And then once that's underway, we'll add the meatballs one by one. I won't add the other tomato, the canned tomatoes, until we're all finished cooking them, and then we're going to put them all in the oven together. Okay, well, I added the tomatoes, which I skinned and de-seeded, as shown in my cooking skills video. And what I'm going to do now is, this has been cooking for about 20 minutes. It's all pretty much broken down and mashed. I've put the rosemary in as well. I'm going to take about half of it out and put it in a bowl separately. Okay? About that amount, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn this up really hot, and we're going to add some more olive oil. And now we're going to start cooking the meatballs. As I said, I washed my hands before, and I'm going to wash them of course afterwards. So we start out with about this size. Okay? And we'll continue that way until we fill the pan. As you can see, I've been cooking them now for a little while. I'm starting to turn them over. They're starting to get a little bit brown on the underside, which is good. This is what we want. And once I've turned them all over, I'm going to let them get brown a little bit on the other side. And once that's happened, then I'll add the rest of the sauce, the can of tomatoes, and put them in the oven at a high heat for about 10 minutes until they get really hot. I'll show you the pan before it goes in anyway. Okay, well, I've added the can of tomatoes, the other half of the tomato sauce that I'd put into the bowl, mixed it all up. It's all ready to go in the oven. I'm going to put it in a very hot oven. My very hot oven is about 200 degrees, Mark 8, Mark 7 really. And I'm going to put it in there like that. And I'm going to leave it in there for a quarter of an hour and then turn it down. Well, this now up the oven, and we're going to have it with linguine and some homemade pesto made with basil from our own garden. And of course a little bit of parmesan grated on top. So there you have it. Beef meatballs in tomato sauce. Very yummy. You can make it without the tomato sauce. You may need to be a little more careful with the liquid when you're cooking them in the oven. But then you can also add them to other things like Provence-style veggies, for example. I'd rather have used fresh tomatoes making the tomato sauce, but at this time of year, at the end of October, olivettes or plum tomatoes are getting rare and they're getting very expensive. And I'd rather use really ripe tomatoes from a can than stuff that's not really ripe. And I hope you enjoy it.
I said, now capons, culinary capers,